we will be recording this. Just kind of an FYI for everyone, but nothing to worry about. So, uh, just wanted to say good morning / good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. And thank you for joining today, our February Incubating Leadership Conversation. It's kind of an open space for us to come together and learn and grow together as fellow leaders. So today, I'm excited to introduce Erin Grayson as our provocateur today. Erin serves as the VP of HR and Leadership Development at the YMCA of Central New York, where she enjoys helping others find personal joy through opportunities to help them see their potential and guide them to their best self. Not to mention, she's also a supportive member of our very own Leadership Forum community. And so, happy to have Erin speak today. And today, comfort zones can be a little uncomfortable to step outside of, and it requires a proactive confrontation, naming it, identifying cost, and turning it around. So today, Erin will be sharing some tools and insights of how to navigate comfort zone transformation and how that can best serve you going forward as we lead into the future. So without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Erin so she could share more about comfort zones.
Great, thanks, Matt. Just some housekeeping on here is in case you are, which we all are pretty familiar with virtual meetings at this point, but just some housekeeping on tips and tricks of having your video or muting yourself on the screen right now. And Joel or Anne, I apologize, was this supposed to be at the end of our time?
It was at the end, but just to let everyone know that there's a summit that we hold every summer, and that will be this summer, July 14th and 15th, and we'll have 4 incubating leadership conversations leading up to that. And we can share a little bit more on the tail end, but for those of you who are new, welcome to the Leadership Forum community. And we're looking forward to getting to know you better and learning with and from you, as all of these are very conversational in nature. So welcome everyone, and good to see some old faces out there as well. Erin, back to you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. So also, if you are already a member, this is information to log in and support our community, but we can also review that at the end again. All right. So Matt, I asked you to help a little bit with support on a document to drop in the chat. If you could support with that, that would be awesome. Thank you. So before we get started, our purpose of our time today is to gain self-awareness around our personal comfort zones and values and how they may be impacting us or those that we support if we supervise or coach, or if we are supporting a team. So the tool that I'm going to share and the concepts I'm going to share today can be used for self-reflection, can be used in a coaching setting or a supervision setting, or can be used with a team. So just real quick, some ground rules just to kind of start us off. This work is can be centered around that leadership piece, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the ground rules before we start, if possible, to have your camera on to try to be present. We are going to do some partner work. So isn't a download. You are going to need to participate. So try to make sure that you're around so I don't end up putting somebody in a group or a partner without anybody. Listen before responding, and listen to learn and understand, and know that we're responsible for our own learning. Do your best to be present and engaged. I know that's always hard with everything we have going on, and easy not to be when we're not in the same space. Expect discomfort and try to get comfortable with discomfort. We want to expect non-closure. We are not going to be able to get through everything with this today. Hopefully you'll get to test out the tool and the concept. And if you want to know more or how to use it, I'll make sure that I share my information so that you can ask questions later. In this work, both leadership development work, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion work, make sure that we don't take anything personal. Know that what others say is a projection of their reality. And when we're in a situation that maybe we could take something personal or it impacts us, we always want to assume positive intent and not make assumptions. And we want to have courage to ask questions. And so if something doesn't make sense or you don't agree with it, please ask the question, can you tell me more about that? Because that's how we break down barriers in the work that we do to make sure that we're creating connections. Confidentiality, we will be sharing in our small groups some personal information, so please just respect that so that people feel comfortable to share. And then we want to speak with ourselves and be impeccable with our words. And this is I missed that one piece. You can still respect the why, but in this situation, we want to respect ourselves, others, and our community of the Leadership Forum. So is there and there's always an option to pass. I'm not going to call anybody out to do this. Sometimes I know in virtual settings to get people to talk, we call people out. We don't want to do that in this situation. Is there anything else that somebody would want to add before we move on to make sure that we feel great about the next bit of time that we have together? All right. So Matt is working on dropping, there it is. So in the chat, Matt dropped a link in there to a Google Drive for a document that I put together. Don't feel like you need to print it out. It might be helpful to follow along, but more I want you to have it to be able to use it later. And right now for our time together, as long as you have either a writing utensil and paper, or if you prefer to use an iPad, that would work too, because you are going to want to jot down some notes. So just some housekeeping that's in the chat. All right, so quick question to start us off. Joel's not allowed to answer this question. So what would you say, and I'm going to open the annotate. So if you haven't used the annotate, if you navigate to the top of your screen, it should pop down with a little pencil. And you can type on the screen or you can write on the screen. So to answer this question of what is the foundation of being a leader? So just pop some ideas on the screen. And they should show up. Empathy. Yep. We're going to talk about empathy in this work. Trustworthiness. Yep. Being true to who you are and authentic. A good listener. Influence. That one's a little underneath some of my stuff, so I'm trying to see it. Being courageous. Yep. All right. Vision and strategy. All right. Compassion. Yep. Growth mindset. All right. We have a few more coming in. For the screen. There we go. Vision. So just take a minute and look at all of the answers that are popping up on our screen, and we might have some in chat. And my question for you is, these are all things that a leader needs to be effective and to make that difference and to make the changes that we want to see in the world. But what do we need to have to know how to step into all of these things? Like, what is that? So just take a minute to reflect on that. All right. So to have all these things, we want to make sure, and I couldn't see everything and I got my cursor back. So we want to make sure to have, and it's on here and I couldn't see it. So kudos to the person who have that self-awareness. So we want to, as the foundation, as a leader, to have that self-awareness, so we know, do we need to do work to get that growth mindset? Do we have situations where we aren't showing up maybe as empathetic as we could, or that we aren't having that influence? So as leaders, we want to make sure that we take the time to invest in ourselves and create opportunities for others to invest in themselves to create that self-awareness. And so that's one of the things that we're going to do today in talking about comfort zones. So thank you for that. So let me clear that. Perfect. All right. So comfort zones. Just some quotes to help us get in the mindset of the approach we're taking with comfort zones. So a nice quote from Dr. Martin Luther King: of the ultimate measure of one is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge, right? So we think about COVID right now and how much we've been pushed out of our comfort zones. And in the work that I do with YMCAs and non-for-profits, that this time has pushed us into really ensuring we're serving our communities and making sure that we are showing up. And so I did some work with the LAY over the past month, and they've said COVID's the best thing that's happened to us, right? And in our ability to meet our mission. So how has this time, and we're going to do some reflection, pushed us out of our comfort zones that maybe have helped us do things that we have never thought of doing before? And in an example for our leadership forum community is being able to go virtual last year with our summit. And not being tied to having to be in person, and how that has grown our reach, right? So we want to look at that. And then, so the other thing is to understand with comfort zones is choosing to stay in our own comfort over hard conversations is the in privilege, sorry. It corrodes that trust and moves us away from meaningful, lasting change. So to understand that the epitome of privilege is choosing to stay in our comfort zones. So this work really helps us as individuals and teams start to identify what privileges do we have that we can just choose to stay comfortable, right? How lucky are all of us that we have the ability in the middle of our day right now to take an hour out of our day to invest in ourselves? And how do we recognize that and then use that privilege that we have to support others, right? So this work that I'm sharing really comes from the understanding that we have comfort zones. They're not bad or good, which is the next description we're going to talk about. It's identifying how are they serving, right? How are they holding us back? And is it from a lens of it's holding me back from not being able to reach my goals? Or a comfort zone is allowing me to just stay comfortable and say, you know what, it's not my place to speak up and say what's happening right now isn't okay, right? So those of us who look like me and are white have that privilege to say, you know what, not my thing. But we have that privilege where other people don't. So how do we use those to step out of our comfort zone and make meaningful, lasting change? So that's where this work comes together. All right. So if you're in a place where you're feeling stuck, you're feeling compliant, you're feeling like I'm just going to go back in and be comfortable, that is probably not serving you or the greater good. If you have a comfort zone that's like helping you thrive and it feels great, stay right there. right? You want to stay right there. And what this does is help us understand that and gain that self-awareness so that we can identify when we need to step out of comfort zones and when they're serving us. We probably all have a great comfort zone of brushing our teeth and hopefully having good quality sleep, and being around people who help us feel good. Those are comfort zones that serve us. But we also have comfort zones. They might be voices in our head. They're not good enough, not smart enough, or the I don't know hows, or I can't leave, a situation that I'm in because I need to be there to support. Comfort zones of busyness, comfort zones of numbing, which has come up a lot through COVID, of I'm just going to numb, and to recognize that I have the privilege to be able to do that. And how is that not serving the impact or my personal goals that I want to have? So I'm going to pause just for a second to see if anybody has any questions, just as the quick overview of comfort zones and how we are approaching them, of knowing that they're not positive or negative. It's the impact of that comfort zone or the impact of the privilege that we have to stay in that comfort zone. So I'll just pause for a second, make sure that you can either pop off mute if you have a question, or I will open the chat so I can see it. All right, cool. So let's get into doing some work together. So what we want to do is start to identify our comfort zones and our impact. And I will ask that you open up the document that Matt sent out and find, I think it's on page 3. It should say there should be questions on the page. So the page with a lot of questions where it's like starting to identify your comfort and comfort zones. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you in, I'm going to create some breakout rooms, and I'm just going to give you a few minutes to, and you don't have to answer all the questions, but just a few minutes to meet someone. So make sure you introduce yourself, where you're from, and start to talk about a few questions on that page. So let me create these breakout rooms. And while I do this, it will give you some time to find the questions and start to review them. All right. So I'm going to create the breakout room. I'll give you a 2-minute warning before I pull you all back. And I'll see you in a few minutes. I know that was a super short period of time to do what I asked of you, but I just wanted to give an opportunity to start seeing and reflecting on those questions, and know that we only have a short period of time today. So just to kind of walk you through how to use it is my goal, to get to send you off with this tool. So those questions are questions to ask yourself, or if you're working with someone, to kind of start to exercise understanding where comfort shows up for you. And remember, comfort is not bad or good. It's just, how is it serving your goals, right? So now we're going to talk about how to identify areas of comfort and their impact. So Joel, thanks for the page number, shout out. So in following along in the tool, we're going to move on to the next 2 pages is what I'm going to walk you through and give you time to answer the questions. Again, you don't have to fill out, obviously, the worksheet, don't have time to print it, but make sure that you have a piece of paper to take down those notes. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're just going to do one goal for time's sake. So I want you to identify one goal that you have, right? And so you can see that on that next page. And then you're going to fill out the comfort zone table, which is on the next page down, that has the 3 columns. So how this works is that you put your comfort zones in the middle, And then on one side, it identifies that you talk about how is it serving you, and on the other side, how is it holding you back. So an example that I like to use is a comfort zone for me is shopping. So I have a pretty big comfort zone of shopping, and one could even say I'm an emotional shopper. So how that serves me, and this is a pretty easy one to talk about, is that I feel pretty great and I have fun clothes to wear that express my personality. How it holds me back is it doesn't really help that bank account or the amount of space that I have in my house. So that is a comfort zone, and how it can show up and serve me or hold me back. Another one that I have would be being busy. I have a comfort zone of being busy. And how that serves me is that I feel good that I'm helping and serving others in my role. How it holds me back is that it's probably not the best work-life balance, in being able to spend time with others. And then we talked about those voices in our heads that can come up: not good enough, not smart enough, who am I, right? That's another one. Who am I to be in this room and speak up? So those are comfort zones too that we want to acknowledge on the table. Then you want to identify, and for time's sake, just one comfort zone that is holding you back from that goal. So, right, we identify the goal, take some time to fill out that table, make sure that you probably have like at least 3 comfort zones on there on the table and how it's serving you. And then pick one of the comfort zones that is holding you back from the goal that you have. All right. And then hopefully for the exercise, the part 4, when you have time to do this on your own or you want to use this tool, you would then pick one comfort zone that the cost is high enough that you need to step out of it. In doing this work, it can be anything from like the cost of my health, if it's focusing on, healthy weight, that the comfort zone of eating can show up with that one, and the cost of being here for my family is big enough that I need to step out of this comfort zone. Or the comfort zone of who am I, that comfort zone, the cost is high enough that I'm not going to be able to make the impact that I want to in the organization that I support if I don't start speaking up, right? Or the comfort zone of this is a skill that I just don't have. So when I working with young professionals, a lot of times, sometimes budgeting comes up and they were told they were bad at math, and that's a comfort zone that they tend to sit in. I'm bad at math. And so they never go on to feel comfortable with budgeting and they can't move on. So how is that serving us? And then we also want to start to really recognize the privilege that we have, like the privilege that, comes along with our different dimensions of diversity, and how do we identify those privileges that are holding us back from really helping make meaningful change, right? So those are just some different lenses. I just want to put out all different ones because this is meeting you where you're at to help you with your self-awareness as a leader. So I'm going to give everyone the next 10 minutes to do these steps. All right. And I'm here. If you have any questions, I'll leave them up on the screen. But this time is for you. And I see a hand. So go ahead if you want to pop off mute and just ask the question.
Yeah, I've got a question. Because I have a feeling that somehow these comfort zones are different assumptions about ourselves. Yeah, it's not that I like doing something, but believe about myself. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah. So we want to think of comfort zones. They can be habits, behaviors, or how you think about yourself. So there's different lenses, I like to say. We all have a different prescription that we look through. And if we had time, there's some great exercises to gain some self-awareness around your dimensions of diversity or your social identity that kind of help with this process, because those values pop up, or those different parts of who we are pop up. So it's just the lens that you want to look through. So habits that we have, behaviors, or the beliefs, right? So it can be any of those 3. The other way to think of it is when you move away from discomfort, right? So the other lens, so there's a lens of yes, that I'm in it, or the no, not that lens to start to identify. So when we move away from discomfort, so an example could be different points of view with a parent when it comes to politics or social unrest, and there's discomfort to speak up and say really what you want to say because it's against your parent who you love and respect, and you just aren't going to come together. And so it's just easier just not to say anything and let them continue on their point of view that isn't your point of view, but you're moving away because you're uncomfortable. So you're staying in that privilege of, I don't need to say anything to you, and I'm just going to stay in the comfort zone of letting you talk and me not talking because what I have to say would cause discomfort. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. That was a great question. The curse of knowledge also tends to be a comfort zone that I fall into when I facilitate. So when we're giving information, we're comfortable with the information. So questions are always great. Any other questions? All right, so I know some people probably started. I will still give the 10 minutes for people to fill this out while I was explaining that. So I would ask if there is somebody who is brave, because what I'd like to do is demonstrate the conversation that you're going to have when you go back into the breakout rooms with your partner or partners. So is there somebody, you will have to share the comfort zone that you need to step out of and the impact of that. So is there somebody that's willing to demonstrate this with me and share with everybody your comfort zone? Oh, okay. Is it Ina? Inga. Awesome. Sorry, the names are not popping up on my screen like they normally do. All right. So Inga, can you share with us what your goal is and what the comfort zone is that you picked that you want to step out of?
Actually, I thought about two goals, which are
Okay, perfect.
because they are connected with each other. One is something I've been trying to do for a long time, and you might be laughing. It's trying to sleep at least 7 hours a day. And second is connected with COVID. I'm a pretty active person, but my life changed since COVID. I do a lot of work sitting, and I put on some weight, and I somehow connect these things. Yeah, that I don't sleep well because I don't eat well because I put on some weight. Everything is connected.
Yep,
with that.
I'll take it. Yep.
So, yeah, but sleeping 7 hours a day, that would be a goal. That's what I thought.
All right. And then what's the comfort zone that is holding you back?
Okay, one is the story I have that in my family we don't sleep a lot. We are hardworking people, and yeah, my parents, everybody woke up very early, and that's one of the story. Yeah, and I remember since very early childhood that I was waking up early as well. That was the the badge of honor. You don't, then you're not lazy. You don't sleep.
Okay.
So that's one of the things. Of course, it's got the background story that this is DNA. We can't do anything about it. Yeah. Yeah. I have even proof in 23andMe report that I'm not a good sleeper. So, that's a very reinforcing belief about that. But that's one thing. Second comfort zone is connected with my work. I actually work with teams all over the world. So I need to adjust. And I support leaders in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in US as well. And very often I start my day 4 a.m. That's the first time when I start working. So I have to wake up very early.
Right.
So that's the second comfort zone, my work.
Perfect.
The third comfort zone is I'm so tired in the evening that when I instead of going to bed, I just numb myself somehow, yeah, and I numb myself in a different way. So, favorite numbing is watching relaxing videos on YouTube, guilty as charged, like people speak very slowly, meditation. Love watching those. Takes hours. Never go to bed.
Yes.
Or binge watching some detective TV series. Yeah, like.
Right. So we turn off. You are able to turn everything off and numb with those things.
And
all right.
other thing is sometimes eating. I didn't do before. Yeah, this is a new thing. So
new thing.
Yeah. So these are three main things. One is connect the story with my family, like the not sleeping enough is the thing. Work, and I'm so tired that I have to do something like really relaxing in the evening. And these are three things which comes to mind.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing. And I would say, I hear you that the concept of the not sleeping a lot from your family's perspective is if you're sleeping, you're not working, is what I heard you say, right? And work is that comfort zone of needing to show up virtually, but be present and be there for work. So can we focus on those two? They go together, is what I hear you saying, is that there's a comfort zone of needing to show up and work hard, right? Is that fair? All right. So my question for you, and if we were physically together, I would actually make you stand up and do this, but I won't make you do that. I just want you to imagine. So you're facing me. You're 100% in this comfort zone where you are right now. I want you to step a quarter of the way out of the comfort zone. So if you were standing up, I'd have you turn a quarter. So you're still perfect. You're still mostly in the comfort zone, but you're a little bit out. What behaviors are you seeing here? How is this different?
That's hard, It's because I think it's something connected with the evening. Like, I have a feeling that it's actually connected with this numbing thing.
Okay. Yeah.
That maybe not being in this work hard ethic and so on comfort zone would be to allow myself to relax in a smart way.
In a smart way, in a way that serves you more than just numbing, right? And reflecting. So I'm making this up, and just for time's sake, I'll make it up, that in the evening, instead of just numbing and turning off, maybe it's a yoga or a meditation practice to help start to shut down so that you're getting ready for bed.
Yeah. I thought as well about actually not checking email.
Right. Yeah. Turn off your email. Right. So being present and being so you get to the evening, we turn off our email. So the next step is, if you were to step halfway out of this comfort zone. So I'd have you turn to have your back from me, or halfway out. So you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out. What does this look like? When are you turning your emails off now? How are you, when are you going to bed? When are you waking up? What behaviors are changing and when you're halfway out and halfway in?
It is connected. Okay, I go back down so you can hear. It is connected with something which I really want for my whole family, not only for me, but as well for my daughter, who spends a lot of time through digital learning in front of the computer as well. To have this stuff we used to do a lot, like afternoons and evenings with no technology, like no phones, no TV, because it's so easy to turn on Netflix and watch something together and pretend that is the family time, but just do more what we do just occasionally during weekends, like board games or walking together, and not find excuses that, which is ridiculous. I'm from Poland, when it's much darker and colder this season. Now I live in California. But I say that it's too dark to go outside. We used to go outside all the time in Poland in the evening, just to have the fresh air, to see stars and so on. So I thought that maybe think about implementing not only during the weekends, but at least find 2 days during the week where I can have this digital free zone in the afternoon.
Love it. So what I heard you say is, a quarter of the way out, you're turning your emails off at night and you're doing something more mindful to shut down. Halfway out, you're bringing along family, your daughter, finding time earlier in the day to do something intentional to connect, right? Be that board games or walking together. So the next step is, and just for time's sake, because I want everybody to reconnect to kind of talk about this process, the next one would be another quarter of the way out. So now you just kind of have your toe in that comfort zone, right? That comfort zone of needing to be present, needing to show up, right? Which includes not sleeping a lot, because if you're sleeping, you're not working. So to kind of, and I want you to have something to talk about with your partner, so we won't go all the way through. And then the next one is 100% out. So now all you're doing is sleeping all the time, right? So that might not be serving, right? I'm exaggerating a little bit. But then the next step would be for when people and those of us go through this process is, how much out of the comfort zone do you need to step for the sake of your goal, right? For the sake of your goal. So we'll just do a few minutes back in the breakout room to either, if you want to talk about the reflection you were able to do watching this, of for yourself, how much do you want to step out, or to kind of talk about what you're taking away. Obviously, I'm not in the breakout room. I want you to use that time with the partner to reflect in a way that makes sense for you. So I'm going to send you back and know that it will only be, just for time's sake, for about 4 minutes. So not enough time to do the full exercise. So that's why I want you to use the time the best way that makes sense to you. All right, so I'm going to send you back, and we've had some people come and go. So you might be with the same people and you might be with some different folks. So we're used to that, not a big deal. But introduce yourself if you don't know the folks you're with. The next steps would be to identify action steps, right? And writing those down of things that you're going to need to do to start to step out of this comfort zone. So what are those action steps, to make sure that you write those down and hold yourself accountable? So when are you going to do them by? And then the last thing that I like to do in doing this exercise, be it in groups or with individuals, is to create a statement and to write the statement. I have the fill in the blanks in the workbook, but to really write it and put it somewhere where you see it, right? To help hold yourself accountable. And how this works is to fill in the blanks. So an example could be, inclusion is worth stepping out of the comfort zone. Is worth stepping out of my comfort zone. By stepping out of my comfort zone of who am I will achieve speaking my truth and creating an inclusive space, right? So that just could be an example. And anybody's fits into those, but just to kind of make sure that we have that accountability piece and whatever works for people. I like to make sure there's different options to create that. So that's a super quick overview of using this tool. We took the lens. I find it works really well to start with self, right? So we gain that self-awareness, but it's also a good exercise to get comfortable with the tool. Know that you can use it for development gaps in professional development and coaching, or teams. We end up with group norms and team norms. I know one that shows up a lot during COVID is that to do your job, you have to be present in that comfort zone, and working through that and how that's serving. Or, for a non-for-profit, speaking up could lose donors or board members, and needing to step out of that comfort zone to really meet the mission of being for all. If we're speaking to the why, that's a comfort zone a lot of whys, including mine, has had to go through during this time. So just know that this tool is diverse and can be used in different ways. And I hope that you all found this time valuable. And here is my contact info. If you want to talk more about this and different ways to use it and implement it, my thing is, I just want the work out there, and a tool to be able to have courageous conversations, so that we're taking it from being about the person and making it personal, to be able to have a tool to reflect and focus on behavior, to be able to create those safe spaces, to have courageous conversations, to create meaningful change. So I always like to bring my time to a close in the same way. So I just ask everybody to hold out your right hand. So in our right hand is the world as it is today, with a lot of people who have the ability to just go back to bed and stay comfortable and let life happen to them. And in our left hand is the world as it could be if people had the opportunity and the want to start to identify comfort and privilege and how they can use those to create a better world. And what we do as leaders is close gaps. So thank you very much. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'll stay on for a few minutes. And I also wanted to give 1 minute just for reminders about some stuff on the calendar. So I'll turn it back over to Joel, and I'll find that slide to pull back up.
No problem. Thanks, Erin. Round of applause. I always love your closing too, to get to intention of what leaders do. And just again, the Leading to Repair Summit is very timely in its theme based on all that we've lived through. And so the Leadership Forum really does bring people together to increase their consciousness about leadership issues and challenges in their life, their organization, and community. And this is an opportunity for us to connect as we do programming all year. On the next slide, Erin, is just a reminder to people that we are a 102-year-old startup. So in the second century of impact, we are trying to keep things affordable and accessible to everyone. We want to democratize leadership. And so that means we're trying to do things that support making things affordable, accessible, and even free. So the summit is free now. It's all online. We are going after grants. We are going after sponsorships, and membership and donations also help. So thanks for those who are part of the community, and consider joining if you haven't been. But really loved our time today, Erin. Thank you all. Matthew, thank you for the support. And Erin, one final question for you is, would you like to partner with some of us on the Leadership Forum as a provocateur to maybe put this into the Participate platform as a course that people can asynchronously experience? Is that something that would be a good way to get it out there?
Yes, and there are other pieces that go along with this that I cut out for time's sake. So
great. Well, hopefully we can build that and share it out so other people can benefit beyond who weren't able to be here face to face. So thank you, everyone. Good to see everyone. Eileen, a shout out. Enjoyed some of our email exchanges earlier this week. Welcome. I know you're newer to the community, and good to see a number of other people out there too.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Joe. Good to see you. Thanks, Erin.
Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Steve. Talk soon.
All right.
Erin, is it okay to ask you one question?
yes, sorry, our time was cut short.
No, the tool is really interesting, and I see a lot of application. I was just wondering, when you work with groups and teams and people, what is the effect of it? Do people really plan of getting out of the whole comfort